I know you've had like all the the experts and all that kind of stuff, and I probably misheard the question when I called in anyway.
That's all right,
but
don't
then
worry.
I thought, well, if they did decide to go ahead with it, obviously the newspapers would probably go down the Brexit route and trying to brainwash people into thinking it's a good idea. And I suppose if you had to go in hospital overnight for a simple operation, a private hospital would probably be good, I suppose.
Yes.
But, anything, serious cancer, people with transplants, stuff like that, I've looked at the private side of things. The treatment's no better, and it's, the cost is astronomical.
Yeah.
And, if I 100% believe if it had been private, my little girl should be dead now. There wouldn't have been a healthcare insurance that would have covered it, or that would have been any use.
What was wrong with her, Jason?
She got cancer. Well, she still has, technically.
How's she getting on?
She's just coming towards the end of her treatment, but like a lot of the other children with childhood cancer,
I don't want to sensationalise things, and if you think that I am, then please tell me to stop. But it seems to me that there is a path here, and I think this is the path you're describing. And again, if I've got that wrong, then tell me. Where the phrase that appears in my mind at the end of the path, and we're nowhere near there yet, but I think we're both worried we might be on the path. The phrase at the end of the path is, well, if her parents can't afford to pay for cancer treatment, why should she get it? And then, of course, you get very wealthy people, and one doesn't have to go far to find very wealthy people who are prepared, for example, to malign dead children killed in the Grenfell Tower tragedy, and who also, of course, are big investors. You find yourself wondering whether it would be possible in a fictional future for rich people to say, why should I pay for that? Why should my taxes go on that child's cancer treatment if her own parents can't afford it?
Yeah, and like I said, and I don't doubt it probably will go down that route, looking at all the other public things we used to have. And it is all perspective. For example, one of the main drugs that children have for cancer now was developed before they put a man on the moon. The last drug that was designed specifically for kids. We're talking back in the 90s.
I mean, the NHS is unique in many ways, so it wouldn't be impossible to construct a model under which we all paid. Well, not all of us, would we? Because some people wouldn't be able to afford
I mean, when we went to the NHS paid for us to go to Germany for proton therapy, which they don't do in this country yet. It might be up and running now, and a lot of the people in Germany it's all private for them. They're all paying, and they were telling us some of the horror stories.
Private, but not in the sense. Well, go on. Forgive me.
Basically, they had to pay for insurance, and some of their hospital stays were like €50 a day, and we're talking about 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time for visits, and they were saying some of them have had to give up jobs to care for the children, and it's horrendous. And without the NHS paying for all that,
I think my friends over at joe.co.uk did some Vox Pops the other day. They just went out and asked people how much it costs to have a baby in America. I haven't got the footage or the figures in front of me, but it was kind of similar to here you go. An ambulance call out is $2,500, and childbirth can be up to $30,000. So, I mean, Germany is small beer in comparison, isn't it? Who do you trust, Jason? Because you sound very matter-of-fact about things, and that's hardly surprising given where your priorities lie in the context of big pictures. It's all about your baby girl, of course it is, and nothing focuses the mind of a parent like a poorly child. But if you were to step out of the micro, as our earlier caller Steve described it, into the macro, and here are people telling you the NHS is not in any way up for sale to America, and here are people telling you that it is, who would you trust?
I don't think it would go down the route of being sold to America, but I definitely think it'll at some point go down the route of being privatised. It's one of the few things we've got left that isn't privatised.
That's the point, isn't it? It's one of the few things we've got left. This is the bit that I can't quite get past.
And people who don't use it that often don't realise how it's getting rid of it would be
We're back to Joni Mitchell, Jace. We're back to Joni Mitchell. You don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Well, the last time I spoke to you, probably about 10 years ago now, my first wife, she was going through liver transplants and stuff.
Yes.
And we looked into private. That was the first thing we did, and we found out that the treatment that they received is no better than the NHS.
You can just speed things up a bit if you've got a few quid, I think, generally, or you get room service in your hospital room and 40 channels on your telly, but you don't actually get any superior medical treatment.
It's no better. So all these people, it's just I want to get this message out there to people who might think, well, it'd be, I've seen it on TV, like on House. Private hospitals in America look amazing, but, it won't be like that. It would be a nightmare.
Hugh Laurie, actually. Hugh Laurie would be an interesting contributor to this conversation. His namesake, Hugh Grant, seems to be rewriting the rules of celebrity engagement in politics at the moment. I'd love to know Hugh Laurie's views. He's a very, very, very clever, Cambridge-educated man. And, of course, you mentioned his big TV triumph, House. It'd be fascinating to know what he thought about the comparison between America and British medicine.
Yeah.
More power to your little girl, mate. It sounds like the direction of traffic is positive.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's probably other listeners out there with children who've gone through the same thing, and and it's.
And there's a lot of love coming in for you and yours.
Basically, if I had to have insurance, for example, so there was no insurance that would have covered it anyway. Because obviously, when they tell you, the first thing you do is, let's look at private so we can get better treatments, and you find out that,
I hear you. And knowledge is power, and it is astonishing how little knowledge we have until it is urgent, like it was in your case. I've said it a few times on the programme that the issues that are most important are the ones which you know nothing about until you suddenly need to know everything. But the likelihood of the likes of you and I being equipped with the knowledge we need in these sort of circumstances, while most of the media is obsessed with gender-neutral vegan roles, is pretty slim to say the least. And I'll retweet that clip from Joe, the media company. But oddly, and my pals over there are going to be absolutely delighted about this, I'm going to retweet it from the account of Bernie Sanders, the former and indeed future American presidential campaign. A simple question. Well, this is what Bernie Sanders writes. This is what happened when people in the UK were asked how much healthcare costs in the US. Remember, writes Bernie Sanders, that our outrageous for-profit system is not the norm in other countries. We can and we must do better. We need Medicare for all now. And if you think I exaggerate sometimes when I talk about people being persuaded to act against their own interests, you will find millions upon millions of people in America who not only voted to have their own healthcare provision diminished under Donald Trump because they believed he'd make it better, but who still resist the idea of Medicare for all. They call it socialism, you see, while paying $30,000 to give birth.